Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Learnathon. I believe the penultimate episode of the Learnathon. I am your host for this hour, Callie. I'm one of the sound designers at Complexly. I touch most everything that comes through here except for the SciShow stuff, which Tuna, our other sound designer, works on. I'm here with the other couple of producers and editors for Crash Course Art History, Yolanda and Bridget. I forgot I'm not married. And yeah, we're going to talk about audio things today. Just wanted to walk through the process of how I do audio stuff for an episode of Crash Course Art History. Just wanted to thank everybody for showing up. And if you would like us to help us make more episodes of stuff like this and help us stay employed, you can donate over at complexly.com/learnathon. We have a bunch of other perks there that you can get, including this t-shirt that says "Good information is worth it." If you would like to have a shirt that says "Good information is worth it." I'm really out of practice at playing stuff. I'm really excited that you guys are here. I'll let Yolanda and Bridget introduce themselves real quick.
Go, Bridget. I think you can go first.
Oh my God, I'm honored. Hello, I'm Bridget. I'm a video editor for Crash Course. I'm coming from Chicago right now. And I've been working at Crash Course for about 2.5 years and been working with Callie for just as long. And yeah, I'm really excited to learn along with y'all because I've never seen Callie do the thing, So yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm Yolanda. I'm a producer on Crash Course. I've been here for a little over a year. I'm based in the LA area. And one of the first series that I joined on was Art History, which we'll be talking a lot about today. So very excited to be here too.
Yeah. So I should probably explain more about my background too. I started at Complexly full-time in late 2021, but I'm extra loud. Cool. I can't not avoid an audio note, apparently. I've been doing sound design and stuff for Crash Course since about 2017, so I've been around for a while. And this entire time I've basically just been sitting in a room doing stuff and no one knows what I do. They just know that it magically sounds better when it goes through my office. So, so yeah, I figured I'd just start walking y'all through what an episode looks like for me.
Well, while you're doing that, Callie, I'm gonna say if everybody in this call can go click adjust microphone or automatic microphone volume, just so we're all the same. I know it's not ideal, just to balance it out a little bit in settings.
I think
that would be so awesome. Automatically adjust microphone volume. And hopefully that'll even it out for the people at home. Also, thank you so much for tuning into the Learnathon. Somebody asked if there's a playlist of all the Learnathon videos. Great idea. Keep an eye on the Complexly Twitter. We will definitely share one of those out because we've got some great stuff. We have trivia coming up as well as a crafting stream tomorrow, which will be great. Callie, can we hear you?
I hope so.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
Hopefully that sounds a lot better. Of course, the audio stream is the one where the audio sounds imbalanced because that's how everything works in my life. This is okay. I mainly work in 2 different softwares. I first start out in Ableton Live because it's just what I prefer these days for more basic mixing and editing stuff. And then I tend to transition from that into Adobe Premiere for the actual sound design stuff because I learned how to do Crash Course sound design from a videographer, and I've just never left Adobe Premiere. I was hoping it would be Adobe Audition. Yeah, I do first get my... I should probably explain that as well. I do first get my files in an OMF file, which gives me exactly what the editor has laid out for the audio in Adobe Premiere. Then I open that in Audition because it can't open that in Ableton, and then I export what I need out of that, and then it ends up looking like this. So, first thing I do is I go into Sarah's audio, which will be these 2 tracks right here, and I route them to my Sarah chain. And the first thing I put on it, every single narration type situation I have an EQ, a gate, a compressor, and a de-esser. We use FabFilter over here just because I really like their layouts. And for the best advice I can give on EQ, obviously this is a bit intricate, but the best advice I can give anyone wanting to do audio is cut out everything below 60 hertz or 100 hertz and everything above 18,000, because nobody will be able to hear any of that stuff, and you don't want it clogging up the rest of your chain. It can especially mess with your compressor if there's stuff really low in here that can make your compressor sound a little bit wonky. The gate helps, the noise gate helps a lot with cutting out different breaths and stuff. This is one that I'm still working on, but you can see it helps cuts out like breaths and stuff and different mouth sounds in between the things that she says, which helps a lot with editing so that you don't have to hear all of the crap that all the mouth sounds and stuff in between phrases and stuff, and I just think it sounds a lot cleaner. There are some episodes where I don't do that for. That tends to be the first thing that I cut whenever I'm crunched for time. And then I throw a compressor on it, usually around -9, -12 as the threshold, and like 2.5 for the ratio. And then I don't mess with anything else, just to help crunch everything a bit smaller together. And the de-esser, which super helps with sibilance, which is the S sounds that you hear in people's voices. I especially found with people in voices in the higher register need more de-essing. It's one of those things that most people don't notice, but when you do notice it, it's really annoying. So I try to throw that on everything just to make sure that it all sounds good and that I'm not annoyed by it, because I'm the one that pays attention to it the most. Yeah, that's my signal chain for all of that. And then...
Do you want to play us like a before and after? Is that possible?
Sure. Let's do a different one. Let's do 21. What does this sound? Hey.
People who came.
Okay, so this is what it sounds like with absolutely nothing on it. I've also kind of stopped compressing art history and specifically because Sarah's voice is already pretty compressed, so it doesn't really need all that much.
Tornadoes and
so this is what it sounds like without anything.
Which complicate preservation efforts. Like, because of climate change, we're at risk of losing the
this is with
world's
the
oldest
EQ.
known cave painting on the Indonesian island of Sulawesi. This ancient artwork
Without.
depicts human handprints on the cave's natural limestone walls. Unfortunately, limestone deteriorates really easy when exposed to salt, which sneaks into the
This is
tiny
with the
holes of
gate,
the walls
which
and
you won't hear
crystallizes,
much,
breaking up the
except
rock. And long
in between
droughts
stuff.
combined with heavy rainfall
This is with the
sped up this
de-esser.
process. Larger architectural
Without.
wonders are also being affected. Egypt's climate is warming
With-
at twice the rate of the rest of the world. And that's put many of its
I had one
cultural
that
sites
slipped
at
through in
risk,
there. That's super
like
fun.
the 15th century citadel of
Then this is with the
Kait Bey in
compressor,
Alexandria, which preservationists are racing to protect.
Which you can
from
hear helps a
rising sea
little bit,
levels.
just make it
We can see
a
how
bit together.
preservationists sometimes even risk their own safety to protect artworks. And it's thanks to those
That's
And I
really
gotta-
interesting. I feel like sorry.
Sorry.
There we go. I feel like it's really interesting to see like how each kind of new element just makes it sound like a little bit better. How like you don't really notice it maybe on like first listen, but like as you were turning it on and off, I feel like I really started to notice more of those differences. How long do you think, like when you're, since with Crash Course we do go through a few different hosts for different series, does it take you more time or less time with different hosts? And maybe on average, how long does like an art history episode take you?
For Mixie the Voices specifically, or for like all of it in general?
Or just a host voice, yeah, just
Of a host voice. It takes me a little bit of time, like maybe, honestly, it only takes like maybe 10 to 15 minutes for me to really dial down how I want a voice to sound, especially EQ wise. It's the part where I earned my audio degree, because I took 3 semesters of something called technical ear training, which was just learning how different frequencies sound when peaked or dipped out of different audio files. And the last semester was when we finally went to doing that with voices, and it was the hardest thing in the world. And now all I do is EQ voices. So it does change a bit depending on what the quality of the recording I got in the first place is how long it takes versus how little I have to do. With art history, I got really lucky in that her audio is really, really clean. And her voice is really, really clean, in my opinion, the way it got recorded. So I don't really have to do much to make it sound better. So it's just a little bit of stuff in between. Like you'll see on my EQ here, like this is only like, all of these are only dipped down by like 3 dB and like 1.5 dB there, which is literally not much at all. And then these 2 are just to help take out some peaks that she had in her sibilance when she talks that the microphone really liked to pick up. So a lot of it is just fixing what the recording sounded like before, and if the recording's super clean, then it doesn't take very long, which is very nice.
Can you actually explain each of the things that you were talking through? Because you're so technical and you know what you're talking about, but I'm like nodding along like, yeah, that sounds great. Can you actually talk through each one?
Yes. So EQ, equalizing, is when the different frequencies in people's voices or the frequencies in anything. And the EQ is how you take out or add in more frequencies, take out or add in stuff. I don't know how to explain stuff. So basically, if you wanted her to have a lot more in the middle of her voice, you can boost a lot of that. If you want her to have more down here, or if you want more of the higher frequencies, or if you just want to cut out completely in different places. There. Compression. I wonder how much this changes when it's a man speaking or someone with a deeper voice. It does change a little bit. I have found men's voices can be, lower register voices can be a little bit easier for me to deal with because it helps mask some of the sibilance in the higher register, whereas higher register voices can be a little bit more difficult because they could just be so piercing. So yeah, I do a little bit more de-essing on higher register voices just so it doesn't sound so strong, and sometimes I'll put in a little bit more in the low end just to give it a little bit more oomph to it, give it a little more body. What else can I say about EQing? Oh yeah, and then I cut out everything below and everything after with a low cut and a high cut. And then the gate is the most optional piece of this puzzle, where you can, I don't know, where you can see how it cuts out the breaths in between. and little bits of her mouth sounds in between. Wonder if I can find a good mouth sound somewhere. And a noise gate is just a plugin that when a sound is loud enough, it will open and it will allow the sound to go through. But if it's not loud enough, the gate will close and it will cut off that sound. And you can change how harsh that cut is depending on all of the parameters that you set.
This is very curious for me to see. I do have a bit of an, okay, here we go. Because I manually sometimes go in. So as the video editor, I work with the raw audio before it gets to Callie. So I'll sometimes manually go in and remove like especially noticeable mouth sounds. And I use the pen tool in Premiere to kind of like decrease and increase different cuts in audio to make it not sound so jumpy. And I'm wondering how necessary that is if you have like an automatic setting to do that.
I know. I wonder how many things we do are redundant because of just the way that our thing is set up. But yeah, I will say that the noise gate is the one thing that gets cut if I'm rushing for time. So sometimes you will hear, because I think most people don't notice when there's like really loud breaths or noises in between stuff. But I know there are a lot of people like me who do notice it, and I think it subconsciously just sounds cleaner if those things are cut out, and it sounds a little bit more professional. The compressor. So compression is a magical beast that I only sort of understand because I was in college 7 years ago. But compression, the basic thing is it takes audio where it has really loud noises and really quiet noises and helps crunch them closer together so that the loud noises aren't quite as loud and the quiet noises aren't so quiet. I only do a little bit of that on art history, and even in only a little bit of it on every show, to be honest, because I do a lot of cutting in between to make it manually not so all over the place. But yeah, it helps a little bit, especially with Hank, because Hank likes to do things where he talks really, really, really loud and then he gets really, really quiet in the same sentence. So compression will help make it so you can hear everything that's being said without your eardrums being blown out. I feel like Tuna should be on here. Yeah, me too. He declined, but it's okay. He does a lot of stuff in Pro Tools as well, and I'm slowly trying to move myself over to Pro Tools. Pro Tools is very intimidating to me compared to Ableton, but de-essing, I think I explained a little bit of. It helps with the S sounds and the sibilants in people's voices when it's really piercing compared to the rest of their voice. I feel like everyone should have it on everything, but it's also kind of a lot to figure out, especially when there's so many options on a plugin like this. So I just do a little bit of basic de-essing. Let's see.
Might have led to some great memes and even benefited her community in the end. But it also
So this is what it sounds like
Jimenez's
without it.
restoration might have led to some great memes and even benefited her community in the end.
And this is with it.
Jimenez's restoration might have led to some great memes and even benefited her community in the end.
So you can see it cuts down those S's by like over half, like quite a bit, and it makes it a lot easier on the ears to listen to, so you don't get so fatigued. Yeah, that's what I run her voice through. So that's my signal chain for my narration, I suppose. Sounds so much better. Yeah, I think so too. I'm very grateful that Complexly allows me to spend so much time on stuff like that. And then we have the music, which I think we can start. I believe that chain starts with Yolanda picking the music, so if you want to talk more about that.
Yeah, sure. We have in this series, we had our AP Hannah doing our rough cuts, and so she would just do the rough cut first, and that gives me an idea in a sense of where we should put different music cues. I really focused in on our intros having music, since we also had a big focus on making our intros something more dynamic, and trying to really focus in on like what are the areas of this episode that we really want to highlight that really kind of speak to the learning objectives too of what we're getting across here. So trying to identify maybe 2 to 3 points in each episode for music opportunities, and just we have a subscription service on Epidemic, and just searching through there of trying to find different options and giving Bridget about 3 or 4, maybe more, maybe less options for different segments, and really just giving Bridget the option to just say like, what do you think sounds good from these options that I'm giving you too? So the search for music can sometimes be a little tricky and difficult because it's like trying to find a specific vibe within stock music without it feeling too stocky either, of something that can sound fun but without being distracting either. So yeah, that was a bit of the challenge, and trying to not think of soundtracks that I like and not being like, Bridget, I want the vibe of this, but we can't use this because of copyright reasons. So that was always the challenge as well. But so yeah, I come up with a few different options and then I pass it along to Bridget. And then Bridget.
And can I say, Yolanda is great at choosing cues, because I think there are very few times where I've said, this does not work. Very few, if any, times where I've said this does not work. So she will drop in some options for me. And it's really interesting because the music can totally change how I've edited a B-roll sequence, because music informs so much of the pace of how I would cut B-roll. So we have like an initial pass of how RAP or how I would drop B-roll into the timeline over our host. And then Yolanda could add a track that totally makes me think, oh, like if we cut these photos so much quicker, it would match so much better with this track. The energy will be up. So the music will really inform how I change the B-roll. And that's really fun. And then I do like some minimal, like fading in and out to signify to Callie, like we want like it's gonna, you know, there's gonna be a burst in volume here. And then once we see the narrator again, once we see the host again, I'll want to like fade the music back out. So I'll do like little cues to Callie, but then she will, you know, take it from there and clean it up and mix it with the audio so that we can still hear Sarah through the music and it's not too distracting. But I will say, so music in Crash Course is also a newer thing to have in episodes. And I love it because I think it just really keeps your attention, keeps the energy up. So Art History is the first, besides the Tuberculosis lecture series, I don't know if any of y'all have seen that, you should. Art History is the first series that has had music like this, and it's been a really, really great addition, I think. So I'm curious to see how that's sort of added work to Callie's plate and how she takes it from there.
Yeah, so I just switched to Adobe Audition because this is what an episode looks like when I get it in the form of an OMF, and then I export her audio up here into 2 different tracks, and then the music is all down here where Bridget put it in and mixed it so that I have an idea of how exactly she wants it to sound, and then I unmix it and delete all of these little things and then export it into yeah, it helps so that I know exactly where things end and how you want things to sound, because then I put it in here and then I recreate all of the fades, which very occasionally I'll need to go in really, really far and like line them up specifically by beat. That's not a very good example. Let's find a better example.
Yeah, that's
not a good episode for that.
I think it would be important to say that a lot of the times, obviously we have like a 3-minute track and it's for maybe a 20-second sequence. So a lot of the times I'm cutting parts of the audio track to match. A lot of the times I'll use like the beginning 10 seconds of a track and then the ending 15 seconds, and merging those two together and kind of Frankensteining it. So I'm curious to hear how Callie kind of like makes it a little more seamless, because it might sound a little rough to people who'd be like, wait, that's not how like that cadence should go now.
Yeah. So this is a better example of how it's a collaborative effort between Bridget and I, because she places this music in and then has already figured out how to cut it in a certain way so that these longer tracks flow better into each other and fit with the episode. And then I can go in and get really, really close and make sure these are specifically lined up, and mix it in so that it sounds good. So that's basically all I do about the music while still in Ableton. I do have an EQ on it, which I've been doing for a really long time, so I only vaguely remember why or where I got this idea from. But I cut out at 300 hertz, I cut out like 12 dB, and at 3000 hertz, I cut out like 12 dB in a very, very small band to help her voice stick out above the music a bit more, because those two parts of your voice are the ones where most of your speech exists in. And it does sound a little bit weird. The music does sound a little bit weird without the narration above it if you're just listening to it with the EQ on, but when you put the narration above it, you can't tell there's an EQ on it, and it helps a lot. Are the scripts locked and VO recorded before the edit starts? Yeah, everything's usually locked in by the time I get it, unless there's like a huge problem with the script and they need to change. Like a lot of times I've had to deal with we've had to deal with pronunciation changes and stuff where they found out they pronounced something wrong, especially in Eons. A lot of times they'll pronounce dinosaur wrong, and then someone will be like, no, that's not how you pronounce it. And so sometimes I'll get VO after I've already started, but for the most part it's already locked in.
Is there a segment you can play without music and then play it with music just so we can hear the difference?
Sure. This is episode 20. That's better. So this is this segment without this music, which I will have to turn down because this is the not mixed version. Actually, you know what? It'll be way easier to do this in Premiere because it's already mixed. This is the tangent part for episode 21. Am I allowed to share this?
I think so.
Okay. This is without music.
In 2012, 82-year-old Cecilia Jimenez attempted to restore a damaged fresco at her church in Borja, Spain. The piece, Ecce Homo,
And then
or
when you
Behold
add
the
music,
Man, was created around 1930 by
it
the
gets a
Spanish
lot more
painter
interesting.
Elias Garcia Martinez. The work had been
It's also crazy that we're
deteriorating for
talking about
years
this
and
in
was
an
in dire
episode because
need
I'm
of
like, I
restoration.
remember this
So
as like
Jimenez attempted
a
to
news
fix
thing
the
that
flaking
happened.
fresco. She busted out her paintbrushes and created
So, yeah, without music.
this. It's still unclear if Jimenez had permission to attempt her restoration.
And
And
with
even though the
music.
local counselor of arts and culture defended her act as good intentioned, it received mostly one-star reviews.
Yeah. So basically when I'm done messing around with everything in Ableton, could you elaborate on how you find the music? Where do you find it? We source from Epidemic Sound. We have a contract with them, which I love Epidemic. They have a lot of variety of stuff to choose from there, I think.
Yeah, for this tangent specifically, which this episode isn't out yet, so exclusive, look at that. But for this one, I just went for something like whimsical and a little silly to kind of match the vibe of the story.
So yeah, this is what it looks like when I pull everything into Premiere with one track for her voice, two tracks for the music, which I mix in Premiere because I like being able to do so while also seeing the video. And I tend to work in Premiere these days rather than in Pro Tools or in Ableton when I'm sound designing, because I just find their video engine to be a lot more stable, and I like being able to tab frame by frame in between stuff rather than having to do it second by second. And that's the two justifications I have for never changing the way I do this. So yeah, I mix the music in underneath the audio, and then I do sound design stuff. This is
Callie,
the
while you're setting up the next thing, I want to just do a quick Learnathon plug.
yes.
Thank you everybody in the chat who's saying that they're enjoying these videos. This is so cool. Thank you, Callie, Yolanda, Bridget, all of you for sharing your process. We did a roundtable last week with all our editorial directors talking about where ideas from our videos come from, how they get written, how they get fact checked. This is all just to show you Complexly works really hard on this stuff. Our videos are really hard to make, and they're also free to consume, which is something that we believe in. We really believe in making accessible education. And if you believe in that too, maybe you're already backing us on Patreon. Maybe you don't want to sign up for a monthly subscription. You just want to go donate or give to us right now. Well, that's great, because complexly.com/learnathon. You can go contribute to us there. You can get a shirt like the one that Callie's wearing, which is very cool. It says good information is worth it. You can get a bundle of relaxing microcosmos videos, or you can just, drop us some change, give us $60, what you would pay for a streaming service for a year. And you always will get free access to 9,000 plus videos that we have made here at Complexly. That's my plug. Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you to Mary McDougall, Anonymous, and Paige, who have all donated in the last few minutes for doing that.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I'm trying to open a file that's taking forever to open because it has a video file in it. So these are the stock sound effects that I made for art history. And most of them pop up. I'm going to steal this for a second. As like the different transitions that we have. This one is for the little thing that tells you all the stuff about the art. I should probably just show you what they sound like. So this one I made sound more like a paintbrush painting over stuff, and then I put reverb on it because I love reverb. Let's see if I can find, yeah. And this is another transition one. Like I stuck to a lot of like papery sounding stuff for art history because a lot of the visual effects are all very papery type looking stuff, a lot of sketching stuff, a lot of painting stuff. So that was where I started with figuring those out. What does this project look like? It looks like a mess. What are you? Yeah, so I mostly just took in a bunch of different paint roller things. I had an idea for a while to add in a little synth sound underneath it, but we decided to keep it more simple. So most things are just like paper crumpling, but with reverb on it, or painting, but with reverb on it, or this little like, what I decided was like a typewriter type noise that helps with a scroll when things pop up in a scrolly way, but with a little reverb on it to make it sound nicer. It's also very quiet because it's supposed to be underneath people's voices. So that's what it sounds like when at full volume. And then I have this map noise that I recorded in like 2018, where that was just like a bunch of like that cardboardy type paper you get in packaging. And I use that all the time throughout a ton of crash courses. And in this one, I used it for the little art credit thing. What else?
Wait, Callie,
Yes.
so you have recorded like your own sound effects that you use?
It's a mix of both. I have a really large folder of sound effects, mostly downloaded from Freesound that I source from, but if I can't find something, I will record it myself. Last week or week or two ago, I needed to record something that sounded like a lot of like plasticky type Lego sounds, just sort of like going for a bit. So when I couldn't find anything long enough that I liked, so I just got out some of my own Legos and just recorded them for a bit. There was another time when there was a sewing machine that was going for a while on screen, and I couldn't find anything long enough, so I was like, I'll just get my own sewing machine. It's right there. So usually if it's something like that I know I can do fast that I can't find, I will record something for. Otherwise, I use Splice a lot as well to source stuff these days, which I've had a subscription for them for long enough that I will literally never run out of credits. I have like 4,000, and I will source a lot of different sound effects from there. Splice is usually mostly used for people who make music and stuff, so there's also a lot of like different like drum kits and stuff in there that you can find, but I found it has a pretty robust sound effects library as well. Also, freesound.org, forever shout them out. They are fantastic. There's a lot of sounds in there that are great. There's a lot of sounds in there that are not great. You just kind of have to search through and find it, but it's an invaluable resource I have found. What other sounds do I have? I don't remember what that. Some of these haven't gotten used in a while because they don't get used very often. Where is one that has the Canon? Because I really like the Canon sound, which is a whole set of sounds. So without the visual, it sounds like this. But I would have to hunt to figure out if there's one recent, because we don't use it every single episode. I feel like we haven't used it in a while. Scraping the internet for free sounds and music you actually like is 70% of what freelance video editing is. Yeah, that was also my experience with audio, is just scraping the internet for stuff that I can use. So this is how the sounds for the Canon that I use. Let's just turn some of these up by like 6. So with the visuals, it's more like this. And obviously it's a lot easier to sound design stuff when there's actual things that make sound on screen for you to deal with. So this is just the sound of the I don't remember what that's called. The spark thing going down, and then I have a little thunk noise for when it gets stuck inside the Canon. The actual Canon going off.
I can explain what the Canon is. This is a segment in our art history series. It's really trying to highlight artists who, we really wanted, that Sarah also really responds to, and just giving them their moment too. So we have a few of those throughout the series that we get to highlight, and it's we have this fun thing that we came up with our animation studio Spilt that we collaborated with on this series of how do we highlight an artist, but do it in a respectful way. Yes, we are shooting them out of a Canon, but how do we do it in a way that's both fun and silly, and yet we still have like their moment on that podium? So this kind of visual mixed with Callie's sound design as well, I think, helped us to reach that right balance.
Yeah, I definitely had to strike a balance between whimsical but not too funny, and also not too dark with the explosion either. And I think I settled it with the cheering at the end and this little bit here as well. It makes it a little bit funnier but not too unserious, like we're not making fun of them. So that's a balance that I had to do. And then I made a little noise for this bit where names pop up and stuff, which I'm not 100% satisfied with. Actually, I didn't make this noise. This is just one from Splice. Now that I'm listening to it. Where is it? And then you get little bit moments like these where there's in art history where there's a little bit of movement but not much. So I try to do little subtle things to help highlight that movement without distracting from what she's saying too much. So for this one, I just put like a little scratchy noise for when she's restoring art by scratching off like debris and stuff off of it. So there's a little scratchy noise for when she scratches it. A little lens noise for when she looks really closely at stuff. Leaves. Just scratching. And then when you put it underneath her voice, it just
Scalpel in hand, magnifying glass to her
it's
eye,
just barely
crick
there,
in her neck.
but it's
One
enough
flake
to make
of
it
paint
seem
at
a
a
little
time.
bit more
That's how
alive and like a
Pinin
little bit
Brambilla
more
Barcelone
interesting.
worked for almost 20 years, scraping
And, like,
years of grime off Da
Gives your
Vinci's
attention a
Last
little bit
Supper.
more to
This
the
work was
movement as well. What else do we have in this episode?
Yeah, I love seeing this here with sound effects because for every single series, it's like a unique library of sound effects that Callie creates. So that's why it takes maybe a little bit longer when we're working on the preview, working on the first episode, because Callie's like building a sound that will carry on through the rest of the series. Like there will be specific sound effects for specific actions. But I love seeing like her ideas of like, okay, like this is going to be a really good transition sound. Like the paintbrush transition is not something we've used before in any other series. So this is unique to art history. And I love seeing how there are like carry throughs, like that's like, it's identifiable as a Crash Course series, but each series has its own unique flair to it. And there's a lot of work that goes on for these sounds.
Yeah, there are a couple of sounds that I tend to keep the same throughout each Crash Course I work on. I don't think there are any in art history currently. This sound shows up a lot. There's another sound I use all the time that shows up a lot. That's called Arrow, but it's just this nice little just sound. It's so quiet. And I'll use that a lot for movements. I have a whoosh noise that I use a lot. So for like big transitions, I'll use that one a lot. But yeah, it's very interesting working on a series like this because I don't often get the visuals of what it will look like before time. So a lot of times I'm basing my what the stock visual effects will be after like 2 or 3 different episodes, and then I go, okay, this is what it will be like for the rest of the series, most likely. So it does take a few episodes to get a foothold on what everything will sound like. There we go. I just wanted to show off a different, more complicated episode with sound design. This is episode 6, which is when they did the art heist for the Mona Lisa, which was very fun. Is this just sound effects? Yeah. So I was able to add in like some big zoom out, some museum noises, a little sparkly because the Mona Lisa is cool. Let's see. And then they're talking more about art. And then we get to when it gets stolen. And I didn't want to do too much to distract from it, but I thought making a little cartoony-ish sneaky noise. I believe this is literally just called Sneaker. Oh, come on. Yeah, this is just called Sneaky Walking from Freesound. Just to give him a little bit more personality. And then anytime time goes by, I have a little bit of a ticking clock for that. And then things pass by. I also have this paper slidey sound I've been using a lot for art history, because there are a lot of these moments where there's just stuff sliding across the screen, and I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting. That's the same map sound as forever. Oh yeah, and then he went to jail. This is a great... I've heard this sound in other people's videos, this jail door close sound, and every time I'm just like, I know where you got that. It's a great sound. Oh yeah, and that was just back in. Oh, let's see it. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out what else I can talk about sound design wise. I suppose if anybody has any questions, I can bounce off
While
of
you're
that.
figuring, while you're figuring that out, I want to thank a couple people who have donated. If that's all right.
Sure.
We've got Ivy, Tara Blair, Donald 386, Vlog Brother Dave. Thank you so much for contributing to the Learnathon. You help us make all of these things and work really hard to make all of these cool, complicated choices. The Mona Lisa wink, that's thanks to you. So thank you, everybody who's contributing to complexly.com/learnathon. And we've got so many people who are really excited to see this. So thank you so much, everybody, for sharing.
Yeah, we got a donation from Dave Green, the titular Dave. Trying to think of what else I could talk about as far as audio goes, but
Is this the order you typically work in then, Callie? If it's like host audio first, then music, then sound effects?
yeah. Yeah, I found it easiest just to get the routine stuff out of the way and then transition into the more creative work later. The fun stuff. But yeah, after like 6 or 7 years of working on this stuff, it's been a lot of just streamlining that routine down so that there's a lot of things that I can do without thinking about it. So when it comes to this stuff where I actually have to think about it, I can get that out a lot faster. I usually turn around an episode in about a day, maybe 2 days if I have a lot of other stuff going on.
Bridget, do you want to talk about editing? I know you can't necessarily show it all to us, but I imagine that there are a similar number of steps in terms of putting together all the graphics and the video and sort of what a complexly or a crash course video editing looks like compared to any sort of other video.
For sure. Yeah. And it's cool to see that Callie works in Premiere as well. So this is very familiar to me. And it changes so much. So we work from footage, the raw footage, bare bones kind of editing, and just seeing all of these things added along the way and how much it just like contributes to make it look and sound like a cohesive episode is just really rewarding to see. And my favorite stage is the rough stage where we're adding all of these things together. So we got B-roll, we got music, we got, if there are particular instances where a sound effect, I can predict a sound effect would be nice, like I'll add that in for Callie, just to like remove a little work off the plate. But that's also really fun. And yeah, I think it's just like really rewarding to work with so many people. Like it's truly very collaborative. Like I could never do what Callie does with sound, and it just enhances it so much. Um, and and yeah, I just what else can I say about editing? I don't know. It's an honor to do it every day. But it's about like the fine tuning of things. So I can definitely relate to Callie in terms of like you really have to get down to the nitty gritty and watch like the same frame or listen to the same sound over and over and over and over again to perfect it. And I love doing that. Sounds like Callie loves doing that. You gotta love doing that in order to get it right. You just have to keep working at it. And that also reminds me, so I saw a really good question from earlier, which was about combating ear fatigue. Speaking of just like listening to the same sound over and over again, watching the same thing over and over again. I know I have like my breaks or things that I have to institute in my workflow in order to remain fresh and have a fresh set of eyes for everything. So I'm wondering how you combat ear fatigue.
Yeah, so I probably take a break maybe every hour or so, just to have the headphones off and not staring at a screen. There are also a lot of steps that don't require actively listening to it. So for a lot of those times, I'll just have my headphones off and have them over here, and turn it all the way up to whatever I'm happening, whatever Twitch stream I'm watching or whatever. The more tricky thing is knowing when you need to take a break, and especially for audio stuff, it takes a while to be able to tell when your focus is not here and it's just started drifting out here, and you just need to sit for like 5 minutes so that your focus goes back in. Because when your focus is way out here, you can't. It sounds different. Like I don't know how else to put it, but you just cannot hear the same way or hear the same stuff than when I've taken a break and I re-listen to it. But yeah, mostly just taking a lot of breaks, having a lot of different steps where I can just not be wearing headphones so my head's not squeezed all day. But yeah, I found that a 5 to 10 minute break every hour or so has been helpful for me for that, and just feeling it out from there. I did also see, does a deadline help or does it limit my creativity? And for me, I have found that to a certain point it helps a lot, because otherwise I would never finish anything, which is why all of my personal projects never get finished. Someone was talking about how my turnaround time is pretty quick. It kind of has to be, because I have so many different projects I'm working on. I'm touching so many different parts of this company. So yeah, it's one of those things where I kind of have to work pretty quickly to meet all of those deadlines for all those different shows. And sometimes that can get a little overwhelming if I'm really burnt out. But on most days, it just means that the stuff that I work on actually gets done, and I can parse out how much I can do to a certain episode without going over and working on it too much. Because at the end of the day, what I'm doing is just the sprinkles on top of the ice cream sundae that we've made. Like a lot of the work has already been done, and a lot of all the meat of what makes it good has already been done. And then I just make it a little more interesting and sound a little bit better. So trying not to spend too much time on every single episode so that I can do more stuff has also been something I've had to learn over the years.
I want to thank Andrew Rambling Gamer for donating. And I have a question, if that's okay, Callie.
Okay.
And kind of for all of you, which is all of these cool things that you do to add like dimension to these episodes. Are there like educational theory things that you think about how that helps people digest this information a little bit better? You know if that makes sense. Maybe
Honestly,
Yolanda as well. Yeah.
My thought is that like a lot of us, especially those of us who have grown up with the internet, need more things to keep us paying attention to something for longer, and just having someone stand here or sit here and talk at you is not that interesting. And the visuals add another layer of interesting to keep people engaged in understanding and having the information stick in their brain. And then the audio is just another level of something to help the information stick in their brain and have them pay attention. Like just having little sound effects every now and then, just so the video goes, hey, are you paying attention? Are you listening still? But yeah, I would say like having more different, both visual and audio cues to the information that we're putting in videos helps that information stick better in your brain. And so that's how I justify my job position.
Yeah, and I would say I would add to that also, like I think Crash Course is moving in a direction where I think like it's famous for having like a fire hose of information, like Crash Course, everything contained in one episode. And I think Callie and I and Yolanda have been working a lot toward like adding almost like moments of repose through the episode, which I think just helps your focus. So it's not just like constant information. You have a moment to like listen to some music. There's like a cue that the pacing of the host is changing. They're talking about a serious subject or like a lighter subject. And I think these little minor things that happen on the editing and sound editing floor that I think really help with audience retention, because we're trusting the audience to pay attention and also giving them breaks, like how we need breaks when we work between information. Is what I'd say to that.
Yeah, I would +1 to that. And like also adding on to what Callie said, like a lot of this work was also built upon our editorial team, which like coming up with these scripts and trying to condense all this information down into 10-minute episodes. So everything that we're doing is also just trying to highlight the words that have been written, the words that are being performed. So the music is really just to highlight like these kind of bigger moments, or we have some intros with like some faster paced music. We want you to lean in a little more. We want you to hear the main question that we're trying to get across, and then we break, and Sarah then says her intro. So it's like finding those moments to really like elevate a lot of what's already been written and what's been done, and really also I think it's just trying to I think just elevate a lot of it. And I lost my train of thought as I was talking, so I was like trying to re-find it, and I lost it again. So I'll end it there.
Incredible. Well, y'all, that's our stream. Thank you so much for sharing your process and sharing your screen, Callie, and making this all happen. And thank you to all three of you for showing us how Crash Course gets made. What a delight.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah, and
appreciate
thank
it.
you. Sorry. Thank you everybody who's donated so far and stuff. I am a big fan of independent media myself, and I'm really grateful to work at a company that is mostly funded by people wanting our stuff to still exist and giving us money to have that stuff still exist. I do that for other people and other productions as well. So having people do that for something that I work on feels very, very nice. And the fact that everyone's here supporting us and rooting for us and cheering us on to continue this work is, I'm very grateful for it, basically, is all I wanted to say.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow for our crafting stream. We'll see you Friday for Trivia with Hank. There will be prizes. Catch up on your Complexly video so you know the answers to the trivia questions. And we will see you all there. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.